Welcome. For your upcoming NTSE exam, we would be talking about the set section. We have already covered an introduction to the NTSE exam. We have talked about the important topics for your math. Now coming on to SAT exam, you have 100 questions that are asked. These 100 questions are classified as roughly 20, 40 and 40. 20 from the section on maths, 40 from science and 40 from social studies. As we have already talked about in the introductory lecture, if you cover NCERT 6th to 10th for science and social science and 9th and 10th for maths, so that would be more than sufficient for your NTSE examination. Now what we have tried to do is, now since you have only 1 week left and you would be recapping the important topics, the important concepts, we have tried to bring out the most important topics for you. So those which are most important and are most commonly asked, the most number of questions are seen from these topics have been highlighted with blue. So you can refer those topics here. So let's say for mathematics, usually you have the surface area, volume problems that are asked. So you have an area, this much area is shaded. What would be the remaining area? You have a pathway in between, a diagonal cross that is cutting across. You have to find out the area. There could be questions like these. Then there could be questions where you have mainly 2D and 3-dimensional shapes. So shapes are very important, a very important constituent for your SAT section on mathematics. When it comes to the number systems, you have most of the questions that are confusing, and the maximum number of questions are focused from factors and real numbers. So factorization is very important. Again, you must be very quick at your calculations. So time is an important foundation for your SAT paper. So for your SAT paper, you have a time that you have to devote, maximum amount of time that you have to devote on your mathematics. The calculations are sometimes bit difficult, so you have to be very quick. Some of the numbers and some of the factors should be on your fingers. That could come only and only with practice. So last moment revision, you can just put some stickers across your room and you can just revise the important factors and the important tables from 11 to 20 and common multiplications, the square of numbers from 11 to 20. Those are really important. Even for your math, the questions on number series would be easily solved if you know and remember those. Then you have sequence and series, again similar to the sequence and series that we have covered for your math section, but here it's mainly the arithmetic series and the harmonic geometric series that are commonly asked. Most commonly the arithmetic series, but the questions are not very direct. They are based on word problems. So you must understand the problem and you must be able to analyze what kind of series problem, whether it could be a arithmetic progression, whether it could be a geometric progression, would be applied in this word problem. So that's a very important concept that you must be sure about for your sequence and series. Again, you have numerous questions on probability, permutation, combination. So with your stage 2, you would have more questions that would be asked on permutation and combination. For your stage 1, it's basically the probability, and that too at a very basic level. So don't worry a lot about difficult problems in probability, but yes, you should be able to correlate where the concept is being repeated, and you have probability questions that often come from your section in mathematics. Again, as I said, squares, square roots, cube and cube roots must be on your tips from numbers 1 to 20. So all these numbers, you should know the squares and the cubes, and then for the important numbers, the cube roots, mainly the same numbers. If you know the square roots and the cube roots for these numbers. These would be really helpful for your MET exam also, as I said. For your trigonometry, the most important section is heights and distances. Most commonly asked problems covered in your 10th section, class 10 section. So this is a very important section that you must not miss. Simple questions, you must remember the basic 10 sine and cos parameters, and then you must be able to apply, okay, this is the height of the tree, a person is viewing from this direction, so you have to find out this angle or the angle of incidence of rays. So those are the kind of common questions from the trigonometry section. Geometry, types of polygons, very important. So you start with quadrilateral, then you come to parallelogram, kite, isosceles triangles, then triangles and circles, definitely very important. The basic properties of triangles, similar triangles are again important. So quadrilaterals within polygons are some of the important concepts. You could be asked to calculate the angle. So let's say you have this angle that's given, you are asked to find out another angle, and questions like those are also part of this section. When it comes to algebra, you have quadratic equation, those are very important, and basically variables in two equations. So two variables in an equation, so one or two variables x and y are the common equations that are asked, and those again not directly asked, those are asked with word problems. So you must have a clear mastery on the word problems, and based on the word problems you must be able to quickly judge what kind of mathematical formula has to apply. And many of the questions can also be solved by unitary method. So unitary method is again a very fundamental concept that you need to apply. Coming on to the next section for your SAT is your science. Science again is divided into physics, chemistry and biology. Usually you have 12 to 15 questions from each of the sections. Under physics, some of the very important topics are optics. So you have questions on focal length calculation, the concave, convex mirrors, lenses and mirrors are the common questions. Then magnetism, you have resistance and capacitance that are commonly asked. So if they are arranged in parallel or series, so those kind of combination circuits are given, and you have to find out the resistance if that's given in parallel, if that's given in series. And sometimes you have the confusing questions that are asked, so you have to find out the resistance if it's going through like this or this. So those are the kind of common questions that come up from this section. Work and energy, common problems starting with the formulas of kinetic energy, potential energy, very simple applications of those. Light and sound are a bit difficult section where you have practical questions that are asked. So basic experiments of 11th and 12th, which are usually asked more for your stage 2, but for your stage 1 you basically have the fundamental experiments where you understand the vibration, the oscillation, the frequency and the wave period. So those are the common questions that are asked from this section. Then you have arrangement of molecules in a solid, liquid and gas, acid, base, salt, and calculation of oxidation number, a very important question in your chemistry section. How do you calculate oxidation number? Balancing of simple equations is another important concept that's part of it. Then you have the categorization under periodic table. So though it's not part of your very basics till 10th, but you must be very aware of the 4 blocks of the periodic table, the SPDF blocks, and then the basic arrangement of the elements in the periodic table. So with that you can understand the metallic and the non-metallic, the properties of the metals and the non-metals, the common metals and their application in various aspects, the methods of purification of minerals, the extraction of minerals from the ores, the various methods, and which method is used for which ore is again very important. Carbon and its compound, we talk about basically the sections of organic chemistry. So types of bonding, covalent bonding is a common question that is being asked. Then ethanol group is again very important. So you have questions from ethanol group and ethanoic acid that are asked. Fibers and plastic, you have much more questions from the contemporary section these days. So that was about the chemistry section. When it comes to biology, genetics, a very important section. So hybridization, you have the F1 generations, F2 generations, which are very important. The fundamentals of genetics, the Mendel's law, the Darwin's law of evolution, the evolution in genetics, in biology is again important. The basic systems, so animal physiology, you have the basic systems, the circulatory system, respiratory system, excretory system, 3 important systems that you must cover. Then cell, a difference between a plant cell and an animal cell, the cell and the organelles of the cell, which we have covered in the separate lectures on the YouTube doorstep channel, doorstep tutor channel. So you can refer the cell and its various components there. Then environment, a very basic topic. Very simple, very scoring. So you would have questions on food chain, food pyramid, inverted pyramid, straight pyramid, pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass and energy. Very simple concepts, biomagnification, bioaccumulation. So all those have been covered through our ecology and the environment lectures. Again, very important. Coming on to the last section, that is social studies, divided into 4 parts: history, geography, pol science and economics. Economics usually have around 4 to 5 questions. The remaining 35 questions are from these sections, so they have around 10 to 12 questions from each of the sections. History, the most important section is the freedom struggle movement of India. Then the world history, that's part of your 9th syllabus. So world history, the World War I, World War II, very important. French Revolution, again very important when it comes to history of India. The nationalist movement, the independence movement of India, the non-cooperation movement, the Khilafat movement, Jallianwala Bagh incidents, the philosophies of extremists and moderates are some of the important topics. If we come on to the medieval topics, you have Mughal Empire and Maurya Empire, which are very important. So the empire established by Chandragupta Maurya, the basic developments in the field of arcane architecture, culture, mintage, that's the coining system. So all those are very important. Ancient history, which is usually covered in the class 6 section of your history, is less frequently asked, less common questions from that section. If there are questions, mainly focus on the Harappa civilization. So the Indus Valley civilization or the Harappa Mohenjo-daro civilization is one of the basic questions that are part of your ancient civilizations. Popular movement, social reforms, that's your class 7 chapter 2 I guess, and class 9 chapter 1. Those are very important. Cover those chapters very carefully for history. Then you have a section from Vedic period. So the four Vedas, the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samveda and Atharva Veda are really important. Cover those in detail. UN and its agencies, very important section. Every time you have the recent developments from those sections that are important and being asked. When it comes to geography, I specifically focus on geography of India. Very important, the rivers, the mountains, the basic lakes. So you have the physiography, I would say, and the political structure, that's important for your geography, specifically India. Besides India geography, you have important topics which are water conservation, you have pollution, that's really important, environment, which was again repeated in your science biology section. Then you have the structure of earth, the first chapter of Guoqi Liang book, we have already covered on the YouTube channel, and class 6 chapter 1 and 2, very important, cover those in detail. GMT and time zone calculation, another very important section for your geography. Time zone calculation problems are very important part of your NTSE specifically. For rest of the exams, you do not have so many questions on your time zones, but for NTSE, you definitely have those. Specifically for your stage 2, there is no if and but, you would have a question on that. When it comes to civics, you have the 3 pillars of the government. So that's the judiciary, executive and legislature. Executive and legislature are very important. Mainly what you have to remember is for what post, what are the eligibility, what are the retirement age. So at what age a High Court judge retires, at what age a Supreme Court judge retires, at what age a person is eligible to be a member of Lok Sabha, what's the method through which you are elected as a president, as a prime minister. So those are kind of common questions from your political science, usually conventional. Sometimes you can have questions from the contemporary section. For example, this time you have Triple Talaq, Lokpal bill. So those are some of the important recent topics that have been covered. Economics, recent happenings, very important. RBI, its role, very important. So 9th and 10th economics, cover those in detail and you are all set for it. Types of banks, nationalized banks, commercial banks, non-commercial banks. So those are the type of questions that are commonly asked. Then you have NABARD, the role of NGOs, small financial groups, the loan, the student loan, the education loan being provided by the various banks. However, of recent you have digital reforms in banking systems. So e-wallets, digital payments, cryptocurrencies, bitcoins are very, very important topics that you must cover for your NTSE examination set section. So we have covered lectures on cryptocurrency, malwares, bitcoins. So those are very, very important. Digital reforms, you can just find out the digital reforms. Under civics, you also need to cover Niti Aayog. So previously it was Planning Commission, now it's Niti Aayog. So either economics or civics, you have important topic which is Niti Aayog must be covered. Then you have some of the recent schemes of the government, those are again important. So just be aware of the recent happenings, recent current affairs. And then consumer rights is again very, very important section. The recent Consumer Right Act and the amendments under the Consumer Rights Bill are very, very important. So those are some of the important topics that we have covered for set. In one more lecture, we would bring out some examples from each of the topics and the type of questions that are put up from these sections. So we would be bringing one more lecture before your NTSE examination. Stay tuned. A very good luck to all of you appearing for the NTSE examination. Hope to see you with stage 2, and we'll be coming back for stage 2 for more updates. Have a very great day ahead.